Hello everyone and welcome to Beyond the Veil Background Information. We're doing the Angels and Demons again, and this time we're doing about a demon. As usual, the way this works is I'll give you a little quote from one of my stories involving this character, and then I'll give you the information I have from my sources, but it'll be limited to the resources I've used to develop the use of the character in my own stories, and then I'll give you the character profile for how he appears in my stories. Okay? We're doing Nergal, Lucifer's dog. Because we are informed that he is your secret police within hell and amongst the punishers of those who break deals, and this is what the situation concerns. Quote from Hound. Once again we're meeting a Mesopotamian god that has been converted into a demonic figure, which in some ways you can sort of understand because of their attributes. Now, just like with Tammuz, the stories and links around Nergal are complicated and their variations depend on region and name, as he is sometimes linked to other gods, and indeed to having at least 3 consorts, with a main one called Laz and a son apparently too. But certainly there are very clear aspects of the mythology of Nergal that make it obvious why later scholars have attributed him to a demon. The first obvious thing is the role that Nergal played in mythology. He was a representative of a certain aspect of the sun, which was noontime, which in the region is a time associated with intense heat and destruction. He has been described as a god of fire, war, and pestilence, but most importantly, he is a god of the underworld. As with the use of terms like Hades and Tartarus into the non-canonical stories within Christianity, gods linked to the underworld in other mythologies are often taken in and incorporated into the imagery of hell. In fact, according to Michel Bellinger's The Dictionary of Demons, there's a mention that his symbol included the sickle and might have been something later incorporated into Grim Reaper imagery. In fact, going by the mythology of this being, Nergal, will use the Latinized version of the name. His close connection to war, disease, and the underworld itself has led to Franz Wigerman suggesting he could be understood as a god of inflicted death, making his link to it rather malevolent. In fact, the realm he rules over is described as a land of ash and tears, and by some accounts he is partner to the goddess Ereshkigal, who was known for being so wicked she tortured her sister to death. To put into context the violent and depressing realm linked to him. He does share some links to agriculture, such as holding titles like Lord of the Dates, but his symbols include scimitars, bulls, lions, and even a lion-headed mace that's most strongly associated to him and indicates his military mannerism. Despite this, he's one of the most mentioned deities written on over 100 epitaphs, and it is thought depictions of him might actually have been used to ward off evil. Wigerman also associated him with Mars, linking him even more to a war god. Nergal's cult was centered at Kuta, and he was a very important deity, with poetry linking him to sunset, but also in later years with influence growing, he becomes named the son of Enlil. In this he becomes even more important, as the belief was that the sun had to pass through the land of the dead at night, and as Enlil judged the lives of the living in daylight, Nergal might have judged the souls of the dead at night. In fact, the Greeks and Romans later equated Nergal's position to Heracles, showing you that there was a necessity to his role, but to their cultures he was not as linked to Hades as he would be later in Christianity. But the first time we hear of Nergal in regard to the Bible is in mention in 2 Kings as the god of Cuth, hinting his worship in neighbouring regions, but also as a link to idolatry, as most other identified gods in the region became. In fact, things get a little unusual when the later Talmudists link his symbol to that of a cockerel, along with the underworld connection, and started to corrupt Nergal into something else. So, who is Nergal in demonology? Well, according to Charles Babigua, A.E. White, and Colin Duplantis' works on demonology, they all describe him as the Minister of Hell and Chief of the Secret Police. One might ask what kind of role is that within hell. Certainly, when someone mentions secret police in the modern era, we've got some horrific examples of what kind of things a secret police might be, and yet applying that to hell sounds even more terrifying. But there is little in the terms of description of his role as a demon, and indeed my own initial introduction in demonology terms was statements that he came in the form of a hellhound, though I found no other source to link to that. But my actual first introduction to Nergal was something maybe a few other people might recognise. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy had Nergal, voiced by David Warner, as a villain that came from the centre of the earth and later even married Billy's aunt. He is one of my favourite characters in the show, but Nergal is used in a lot of different media these days, and one of the other interpretations I like is within the Constantine comic series, which is a great source of varying interpretations of the demons in hell. What did I decide to do with Nergal? Well, below is the profile of who he is of who he is within my Beyond the Veil demonology, and well, he's probably the demon next to Belial that I've written into stories quite a bit, and I've made his role a little more ominous to other demons, but not really as much to humans. Name, Nergal. Position, head of Hell's secret police and Lucifer's personal torturer. Stories featured in various including Cruel Temptations, Hellbound, and the Blood Shadow series. Role usually an antagonist to anyone that is trying to prevent Lucifer having their way or is not behaving by the rules. Gender, male. They choose to ever be seen as male. Description. Though there are various depictions of what this being might look like as a human, and he certainly takes various forms to scare people, there are only three main forms that he uses more than once. The first is a great hellhound wreathed in flame, wearing a spiked collar and charging through hell, howling and snarling whenever he's caught onto the scent of dissension. Amongst the veil he is most often seen as a large being coated in black, with almost no discernible shape but for his canine head, with gold painting beneath the eyes, sometimes wearing a hood and sometimes seemingly wearing a crown. In this form he is often referred to as the father of the hellhounds, but outside his veil he comes up in a very uncomfortable form. This form is that of a strange figure dressed in black with no real features, but instead a massive grin upon his face and words that never quite sound sincere. He has a terrifying aura about him that makes people feel like they are in trouble, and that they cannot help but answer him. Sometimes the shadow of the clothes he wears seems almost like he's wearing a very disturbing uniform seen only in the human world. Realm, Hell. Abilities: he can communicate through the mind, hypnotize with the eyes, draw out the truth from people without asking questions, can drag any being down to hell with him, can smell trouble and react to it if it upsets Lucifer. He can set fire to anyone, make their heart explode, make them age incredibly fast, and in truth he is one of the few demons of hell that can kill humans, as he has no desire to gather souls. He can also summon and create hellhounds to do his commands, and has eyes everywhere, and only heaven is beyond his sight. He also helps stir wars through conspiracy theories, which he collects. He can spread disease if he wishes, and when he walks upon earth, an intense heat like that in a desert can follow him and make birds fall from the sky around him. Master, Lucifer. Personality: obedient, loyal, and utterly devoted to Lucifer. He is like a dog in not caring for anything but obeying the leader and ensuring their safety and the security of his group. To Lucifer he is so easy to get along with and so adoring that one might be put into a false sense of security, because to anyone but Lucifer he shows a different side. Nergal is conniving, vicious, sadistic, and unflinching. His goal is to maintain hell for Lucifer's sake, and he will turn on anyone or for any reason to ensure this. He hates everyone but Lucifer, and will use them to gain what he wishes, and make no close attachments. He is not above destroying demons with his power, and he doesn't mind torturing any creature of any age or gender to get information he seeks. He's wicked and cruel, desperate to feed the paranoia he stirs with his brutality, so that others remain obedient through fear. Relations. Lucifer, the only being Nergal cares about. He was created in his mind to serve only Lucifer and rejects the Almighty and any thought of angelic power completely. Lucifer to him is everything, his master, his reason for being, the only thing that could ever matter, and he will protect Lucifer no matter what. However, Nergal has no concept of romantic attachment, and his relationship to Lucifer is like a dog to owner. It has nothing else to it. Belial, the only thing that ever gets closer to Lucifer than him. Nergal and Belial have to get along, but they hate each other. Nergal believes that Belial is not efficient in his duties and brings the chaos that he must control. But he also hates that Belial is disrespectful to his master and threatens constantly to attempt to kill him. The pair get along, though, when something related to Lucifer requires them to, but Nergal sees himself as Belial's rival. The Enforcers, as these consist of his spawn with other demons and Belial, Nergal has as much interest and affection for them as he does to any soldiers. To him they are troops, and his parental role only goes that far. He is their drill sergeant and their tormentor, but he also does have some pride in their abilities, for the fact they fix the problem Belial makes, and have as much loyalty to Lucifer as him. Nergal can appreciate them, but he doesn't always see them as the elite force that Belial likes to make them out to be. History. Created last of all the angels, Nergal's only purpose was to join the Watchers that monitored Eden, but he was always more interested in monitoring the angels. Every conversation he remembered, every question he recalled, and everything that happened he understood, but to him there was always something wrong with this. He could never fully comprehend it, but he began to watch the likes of Lucifer and Belial around the universe, and began to find himself intrigued by their conversations and thoughts. Was it possible for there to be something more than this out there? When Lucifer was pushed out at their first mistake, Nergal decided to follow them and monitor and monitor their actions. When he witnessed Lucifer bring forth death, Nergal suddenly realised that there was something other than the seeming simplicity of the Almighty's orders. There was a balance to say that none could live forever upon this earth, and nothing could become greater than the angels themselves, and so he followed after Lucifer. He revealed himself to them and discussed their willingness to obey a master that brought death into the world, and with it balance. Nergal was the first true follower of Lucifer, and he used his knowledge of all the other angels to help Lucifer identify just who would be willing to switch sides against the other angels and the Almighty. Nergal entered into battle just like the others, but despite his intelligence, he was not very strong and took to ripping out the feathers of those beings on the ground. He was wicked enough, and after Lucifer was thrown out of heaven, Nergal and Belial both jumped after Lucifer to land in hell with them and stand by their side. In hell there was a tumult over who was in charge, and Nergal was able here to produce powers that showed off his true cruel intentions as he defeated those that would refuse Lucifer's might. He then took a place as Lucifer's lackey, spied on all things and destroyed anything and anyone that subverted Lucifer's will. It's a bit short, but I think it gives you enough with Nergal. He's not as much a main character in the stories as a background character that everyone knows and fears. Final comments. Firstly, I'm just going to apologise because I have got a cold while I'm doing this, and I only get like one opportunity a month to actually get down and do all the recordings, so I do apologise that I've got a cold today. Odd little note here, like there was with Uriel, one of my first thoughts on how Nergal might look at a human form had actually been like Nick Fury in the Marvel Universe. I did even initially written him as similar at first, but then I changed my mind completely because I was more interested in the shapeless or maybe canine look, thinking actually of a scary sort of Anubis. So I hope you don't mind the little underworld godling description, as well as the grinning man. If any of you know about that sort of thing, you might sort of get the hint of why Nergal's creepy as well. But also, just a random note, I wrote this script a month ago, so if you're listening to it when it's in video form on YouTube, that's 2 months ago. I wrote the script in September, right at the start of September, and not long afterwards, one of the groups of people I watch who discuss mythology and that sort of thing in greater detail and with a better budget and very enjoyable to watch. They recently produced a video about Nergal as well, but I'd already written this by the time that had come out, so I was like, how weird. But anyway, thank you very much. Bye.